Hello and welcome to an episode of Historically Marked. I am Jason in downtown Monterey, California, or should I say Old Town Monterey, California. And there's lots to see. There's some museums and some old places that date back to the 1840s, and that was when California became a state. And there's so much history to uncover. I'm just going to kind of guide you one by one. And the place I'm going to start is just right over there at the Custom House, California Historic Landmark #1. All right, can you dig? Let's get on with the tour. And here's the National Historic Landmark plaque, Monterey Old Town Historic District. That was placed there in 1970. I think I'll start with this plaque right here. Custom House Plaza, a place to remember and rejoice in our heritage. This plaza, dedicated September 6, 1969 by the California Department of Parks and Recreation in cooperation with the City of Monterey, reflects the atmosphere of the early days and complements the many historic buildings and sites preserved for the enjoyment of present and future generations. So that right there is the Custom House. There's a museum store, which I'll definitely check out. And there's a few historical markers all around here. Most of them say the same, but I'll read them off anyways. Most of them at least. Here it is. Landmark #1. Obviously the sign has been replaced, but because it's not really pristine, but it's newer than say 1960. Okay, 2014, rededicated 2014, that's what it says. Alright, so about the Custom House. Constructed in 1827 by the Mexican government to collect custom duties from foreign shipping, a principal revenue source when Monterey was the capital of Alta California, which was Mexico's northernmost province. Thomas O. Larkin, U.S. Consul to Alta California, contracted with the Mexican government in 1841 to rebuild and enlarge the Custom House. Commodore John Drake Sloat raised the American flag over this building on July 7, 1846, to signal the passing of California from Mexican to American rule. Restored through the efforts of the native sons of the Golden West with the assistance of the people of California. State Landmark #1, baby. Registered June 1st, 1932. And this was a National Historical Landmark in 1960. Here's another marker about the Custom House. It says mostly the same thing. And it says here, July 7th, 1846. During the Mexican-American War, U.S. military forces raised the Stars and Stripes at the Custom House, marking the end of the Mexican era and the beginning of the American era in California. The building was used for customs operations by the American government until 1858. Today, the Custom House looks much as it did when it was a Mexican government facility. And we're going to go into, that's the museum, and they got a gift shop in there. And they do offer tours, but you got to know what times to take them. And there's another one on top of that pole, but it basically says the same thing. It also has it in the Spanish language. And here's another plaque. It's just right where that sign was. But yeah, constructed by the Mexican government during 1827 and 1841 to collect customs duties from foreign shipping when Monterey was the capital of the northern province. Yeah, it's the same thing. This was put up here in 1988. Inside the museum. So here's a little history about how California became part of the United States. So as early as 1823, visitors approaching Monterey from the ocean often described the attractive scene, scattered like so many bullocks on the green hill near the Presidio. Mexican California's capital and main port for 25 years, this tiny hamlet was the center of the territory's civil, military, and commercial life. And remember, this was Alta California. Spain's vast empire in the Americas was slipping from the imperial grasp, and in 1821, Mexico declared its independence. But the unstable new nation offered no funds to administer California, sent no regular supply ships, and provided few leaders acceptable to Californians. And then in one 5-year period, the province had 11 different territorial administrations. That's quite a lot. And just right in front of the Customs House is the old Fisherman's Wharf. Monterey's earliest pier of stone, built in 1846, gave way to a commercial fishing wharf in the early 1900s when Monterey's multi-million-dollar fishing industry was born. Despite many changes, the wharf today retains the tone and flavor of the past, a monument to the fishing industry and the fishermen who braved the wind and sea. And Easter is in just a couple of weeks, so that's why you see all these Easter decorations. And just not too far from the customs house is another marker called Sloat's Landing. On this spot, supposedly, on July 7th, 1846, the U.S. Marines and sailors landed and raised the American flag over the custom house, which stands before you. Mexico and the United States were at war. American forces landing in Monterey claimed 600,000 square miles of land for the United States. Yep, it all happened right here. One of these days I'm going to make it out to Sacramento, and I hope to make it out to San Francisco and the Bay Area pretty soon. I've done a lot of the SoCal area, but I still haven't stopped. But that is where I'll be eating lunch / dinner, at the Old Fisherman's Grotto. It's always been a recommended place. And they also have a fish shop too, where you can just buy it and take it home. And I decided to again get the clam chowder in the bowl, but this time with garlic butter. Can't beat that, right? And I get a nice view of the boats in the water. Now we are at the whaling station. This was built in 1847 by David White. Headquarters of Old Monterey Whaling Company, 1855 to circa 1885. And this sidewalk is made of whale bones. And in front of me is the first brick house ever in California. It was built by the Dickinson family in 1847 from brick that was kilned in Monterey. And what do you know, I get to go in. And they're talking about Missouri in here, wow. And it is a museum in here. Talks about how the Junior League and state parks saved the first brick house. 1979, that was when they made an agreement with the state of California to restore the old whaling station and the first brick house. And of course, I mean, it wasn't an overnight thing. There had to be repairs done, and this was definitely part of urban renewal. All right, here is one of the most interesting ones that I look forward to visiting. I probably won't go inside, but that's okay. Now, I'm sure a lot of Californians are probably tired of their state being 100% associated with, you know, the entertainment industry. I remember reading in Dustin Diamond's memoir that it always annoyed him that people, you know, think everywhere in California is Hollywood, because when people think of Hollywood, you know, they think of the whole state of California and vice versa. But it all comes down to this: California's first theater. Yeah, this was a place where people that worked in the whaling industry were entertained. Let's see some. All right, it says here, many pass through the door. You would never come anymore. See, I can't even read half of it because it's all faded, so I won't even bother. Yeah, I can't even go in, but that's okay. Although it never hurts to look inside. But yeah, California, despite of Hollywood's fading influence, as well as LA, I mean, it'll always be associated with, you know, entertainment. And it all began right here in Monterey. Now, if you do want to go in here, okay, well, they do offer tours, but yeah, unfortunately, I'm kind of on a time schedule. Checking out Duarte's store. Rosario Duarte introduced salmon trolling to Monterey Bay in 1878. His store was a popular local meeting place. Relocated in 1922, it became a dry goods business operated by Chinese merchant Louis Jiang into the 1940s. And you can go in, but I'm not gonna. There's an open sign. Thomas Cole, an English sawyer, built this home for his family in 1856. Used over time as a dwelling house, it became headquarters for the local National Chinese political party in the early 1940s. Oh, nice. All right, now here is the Pacific House Museum. This was designated a California Historic Landmark 354. Constructed in 1847 during the U.S. occupation of California. This adobe was used by the U.S. Army for storage. It was also used as a hotel, a courthouse, tavern, and in later years as offices. And we're gonna go check it out. Now the gardens, which I'm assuming it's this, bullfights took place as well as bear fights. Wow, that would not fly today. But the museum tells us the full story of the city of Monterey. It also houses the Monterey Museum of the American Indian. And the museums are free. And for those that don't know what a presidio is, there you go. And this is not part of the tour, but I thought I'd come check this place out anyway. This is California Historic Landmark number 348, the home of Juan Bautista Alvarado. As you can see, it is now a bank, a Supercuts, among many other businesses. Number 348, sorry. All right, Juan Bautista Alvarado, who was a native of Monterey, governor of California under Mexican rule from December 20th, 1836 to December 20th, 1842. During his administration, the increasing influx of Americans and the Russian settlement at Fort Ross began to be regarded as serious problems. Russians withdrew in 1841. Put here September 4th, 1949. And hidden behind these bushes right here, and these were the quarters of General William Tecumseh Sherman. It was built by Thomas Larkin in 1834, but it was used as the quarters in 1847, and I don't think I'm able to go in, but still really cool place to be staying right in front of. Yeah, unfortunately there's no doorknob or anything, so yeah. I'll show you a few more things. Then across the street is the Madariaga adobe. I hope I'm saying that right. It says it's an original adobe dwelling in the Mexican-American period. Casa Pacheco, built in the Mexican period by Don Francisco Pacheco, restored in 1929. This looks like a very important group. And lastly, here is the Stevenson house. It's the house where Robert Louis Stevenson lived in the better. It says on the marker over there, it's the house where Robert Louis Stevenson lived in the latter part of 1879. And I think I'll just, it's open. Very cool. And speaking of Robert Louis Stevenson, I am standing at this transit station in Monterey, and here once stood the site of Simon O's restaurant. Visited daily by Robert Louis Stevenson in 1879. How about that? But he ate his meals here nearly every day. And this is Jules Simoneau, who was a French immigrant